Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Yes guys, I was couldn't do recaps last couple of days. I had some issue on Friday, some technical issues, and I was offline yesterday. So anyways, back to our regular recaps and teachings. We do have a lot to cover today, but before I start, we'll do a quick introduction and then we'll start with the analysis of the market. What is market doing? What the semiconductors are doing? And then we will go from there. Anyways, just a quick introduction. Anybody who's new to my channel, who's new to my Twitter, or who's new to my community, all these recaps and all these teachings are from any trade ideas or any swing ideas or any investment ideas that I share on Twitter or I share in the community or we talk about in previous YouTube videos. And most of these ideas are our repeatable setups that a lot of traders use. My fixed system, the thousands of traders use to trade consistently. We do not trade random. We always we trade fixed system, fixed setup. We always trade fixed system, fixed setup, and our setups are repeatable setups that I have been teaching for a long time, and we just follow those. Every morning, me and my team, we are up early. We create a game plan for the community, our trades, and our setups. You see in front of us was today's game plan: RIVN, ALB, Whirlpool, Love, FedEx, GIS, PAYX, and few others. So, and I'm on the voice first few hours when the market opens. I go through the market commentary, what I'm taking long or short. Even if I'm not taking any trade, I still guide the community through the various trades and various setups, be it our game plan trade or any other setup that we are trying to trade. We also share strategy called Ripster Day 2, Day 3 setups. This is a strategy that I invented. I did a free webinar on this strategy as well for all the traders. We try to trade these setups as well based upon support, resistance pivots, and EMA clouds. In addition to that, we always share daily levels so the traders can trade on their own, use these levels to trade Psych, QQQ, Apple, Microsoft, AMD, and all those. These are what I call market plays because these are market dependent plays. These plays are dependent on the market. Additionally, we also share crypto levels, coin MSTR, because we always want to trade these stocks when Bitcoin is moving or there's volatility on Bitcoin. Yesterday, when I didn't do any recap, but the coin and MSTR were huge winners based upon these levels, and we use these levels and EMA clouds to trade it. And you can see the setups, how to trade it using EMA cloud. You can pause the screen and review it. Anyways, that's what we do every day, and we have a plan. And we do maintain a swing tracker in my community where I share any swing ideas, and which we're going to talk about the RIVN swing today. So that being said, I'm going to show you my timestamped comments or my alerts, which is basically, we're not an alert service, but I try to guide everybody through the trade, what I'm looking at, where it's a long, where it's a short, and how to manage the trade, which is a good place to buy, good place to short. I will show you that timestamped comments. Of course, I cannot show you what I say on the voice, but we'll try to recap. We'll try to learn from each trade every day, either a winner or a loser, so that we can improve and we are ready next day for a similar opportunity. Let's start. All right, let's start with just a quick analysis of what market has been doing lately. So if you look here at SPY and QQQ chart, even though we had some bounce today, it was more of a choppy action. But noteworthy thing to note is, let's go here. Let's look at the sectors, right? So today the leading sector has been consumer discretionary. That includes Tesla, Amazon. Those are our trades today as well. We'll look at them in detail, but you can clearly see that technology has been lagging behind, right? Last 5 days, if you look at it, technology has been lagging behind. That includes all our semiconductor chip stocks and mostly those names. And that's why you can see that why that sector is weak, and that's why we see the weakness in our semis. So let's go back here and let's look here at our sector analysis. So you can see that XLY, which has been strong, and then semiconductors have been lagging. So if you look at this semiconductor specifically, right, because Nvidia and all the semiconductors had a crazy run, but lately, you see that it's like bottom fourth of most of the sectors. It did bounce at end of the day, but if you see that that this line right here, whole day it was basically being sold. The semiconductors were being sold, and the consumer discretionary, which includes Apple, sorry, not Apple, Amazon and Tesla, they were being bought up. So we clearly see that market going back towards big seven stocks. So if you see that, let's go back here. Let's look at here on the big seven. So you see that the whole day Amazon and Tesla were leading. Meta was strong. Apple was strong in the morning, kind of pulled back later in the day, but AMD and Nvidia were at the bottom bunch. So that's why we didn't touch really, we had one trade on semiconductors, but we see the weakness across the board on semiconductors. If I go in the detail into the semis, we can see that there was not really anything crazy move. All of them were between 0.61% gain to the losers: SMCI, AMD, Nvidia, AVGO. So we clearly see the selling that has been happening last few days. So the reason I'm showing you this is when this happens, so we focus on what is strong, what is moving. That's what we focus on. Additionally, we are still, the market is, a lot of stocks are still trading behind 50 EMA. You can see today, and more stocks were making new lows than they were making new highs, and most stocks were declining than what was advancing. So overall market was bearish, just a few names which were strong. So we are not really in a healthy market, because we have made an all-time high. Of course, we can bounce back here. We are holding the trend, but the reason I'm focusing on this is so that the what trades to focus on, right? What setups to focus on. A lot of beaten down names have been coming back up, and which are still trading under the 50 EMAs. So let's look at some cloud names. So if I look here on the clouds names, so you see that there was money flowing in some of these cloud and SaaS names. Snow was up, MDB was up, DDog, all these cloud names were up to it. All day they were buying it. So they were selling semiconductors, they were buying cloud stock, they were buying the Apples, the Teslas, the Amazons. So when we do this kind of the market analysis, then we know where to focus on. Of course, there will be time to buy Nvidia, just like we did analysis last week, but it's not right now. So this helps us find a lot of the opportunities. Like MDB is a good swing opportunity, and Snow has been bouncing, so you can understand where the money is flowing. But overall, from the market perspective, I'm not really fan of this choppy market, because even if you see the intraday action today, right, we were all in the pre-market. This was a range, right? Yeah, we did get some trades here, this breakout, but after that it was just chop chop chop. This action up down, chop chop chop. So that's not really what you want. So market was essentially choppy. So I'm not a big fan of trading SPY QQQs on days like today. And even though, and reason it was choppy and not really falling down, because Apple was strong, Amazon was strong, Tesla was strong. If those stocks were weak, we would have had a red day. We would have been falling down. So anyways, unless and until the semiconductors bounce and the big seven hold the strength, we are going to stay in the chop. We still holding this line here very nicely, but I would rather have a flush on the market and reset, rather than trading this chop. When everything is trading at highs, semiconductors are managing the market. It depend on what they do. But if we have a rotation, let's say rotation, people sell the semiconductors and they buy our big sevens, and they buy these beaten down cloud names and all that. So if we see the rotation on those beaten down names, there are so many beaten down names, as you see that how many names are trading under 50 EMAs, or even half of the stocks are trading under 200 MAs, then we can find those swing opportunities or even day trade opportunities. Like there was a snow that was in our community trade today. It was all a big mover for everyone, guidance in the community. And I think I did have a snow price alert as well. Let's see. Yeah, Stefan was on it all day. You see the snow. So you clearly see that the money is flowing out of semi sector and going into these other sectors. But overall, this is where we are. This is choppy market, even though QQQ pushed, but intraday action was more choppy. It is very bullish so far if you see the bigger picture, but if you go in the depth, you only see the few big names keeping up the market. And so that's what we're going to focus on in coming days. Keep eyes on the semiconductors, keep eyes on these cloud stocks. I have a list of all the cloud stocks that I keep eye on every day, trying to find opportunities. As SaaS cloud names, you can see most of them were up. MDB, Snow, DDOG, Team, so they were all moving up. And if we just keep eye on this. That's how I try to analyze the market every day in the community as well, keeping eye on what sector is strong, what sector is weak, just to find those opportunities. So nothing drastic since our last video. I did few days ago this pullback, and now we are trying to hold that. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow, but just wanted to point out the overall health of the market. Where is money flowing? Okay, maybe I can also check on the cryptos. Let's say quickly check on the cryptos. So if we go and look at the sectors, uh, crypto has been weak as well, apart from that bounce yesterday when there was a Trump news. I think I tweeted about it as well. And BTC, USD, we can look at. So it's weak, right? Apart, it was just a yesterday pump on that Trump news, and now again we are kind of back down. So it's a very bearish. Bitcoin as well. It's not being bought up right now, even though coin did provide some good trades yesterday. But as you clearly can see, coin is bearish as well, not ready for a swing, and we'll see how that goes. So, all right, let's start with our trade recaps for today. All right, so we're gonna just look at our swing on RIVN today. So what happened was, so back on May 30th, I shared this idea that we have a downtrend channel. 10 pullbacks are good add, 10 is the risk, 950 or 10 is your risk. And since then, RIVN has been working out nicely for us. We did push to 12. So this is the updated chart. This was back on June 7th. And you can see that it worked out nicely for us. It was 20% gainer for us initially. So we can see here on our RIVN swing, we had proposed entry of 10, 10.50, and risk was right under $10, like just I showed you. And today we got lucky with the news, and our risk was 10. I mean, RIVN was already working out nicely for us. And when the news hit, it overnight it gave us an 80% gain on our swing, and we took all profit at the open. And then we'll talk about the short that we took later in the day. But anyways, so clearly you see why I had called out the swing, why I was in swing and RIVN, what was the reason, what was the risk. And you can still see the weekly channel that why was this area the risk. And if you risk 50 cents and you make it $8, that's pretty good swing. A lot of traders really did good. A lot of my traders had the calls for July. We were a really huge day for everyone there. So just wanted to recap the swing on RIVN, the reasoning, the risk, the reward. Now let's talk about the RIVN day trade. So RIVN we were short. Today let's go back, look at our game plan and see what was our plan on RIVN here. So if you see there, RIVN was our number one play. Volkswagen plans to invest $5 billion. We were intraday long over 1570, short under it. So right, so we already had a plan. 1570 was our level, and you see that this area was a 1570, and as soon as it breaks, we take it short. You can see here I called out my short. Let's see if I can show you guys here, right here. So you see I called RIVN short right away, and I sold my calls, and we flushed from 16 to 1470, and those were almost 50% on the puts, 15 puts, 14 puts, whichever you were taking. Then we logged our profit. Then it bounced back, and as it was pushing over, And this is, I told everyone that if we push over the 16, then we stop out, right? I stopped out actually when it reclaimed and on my last piece, but it did not turn bullish. I was looking for a long, but it did not turn bullish and it rejected. And when it rejected, so you see that 1587, 1575 again pivots, and it rejected again, and I was still bearish. I was watching that 1580, and once it broke, and that was it. It was a reshort, and and you have to follow the clouds, right? The clouds never turn bullish. And even if you stop out here, you get back in, because remember, we already made the money in the amateur move. This first move, we already made solid trade. And now if you stop out, you get back in. Your risk is this 16 area, this zone. And then again, it was a slow grind. It was kind of frustrating, but all day, RIVN never got over the Ripster 512 clouds. It rode down the clouds all day. So 15 and 14 puts paid you nicely. The short was, even if you were at 1570, 1580, it was $1.50 short, risking 30-40 cents and making almost $1.50. That was a good risk reward short and nice 50 to 100% on the puts. You can see all the time stamped guidance here on the RIVN short. Let's go to the next one. So next one we're going to look at is is FedEx. So FedEx, let's see what was our plan on FedEx. Of course, it was a big gap, but remember, not all the gaps have to fill, but we have to try. So I told everybody only long if 287, 286 area holds, gap fill under it. So as soon as I saw the weakness in the morning on FedEx, I started a short starter size because it was breaking the level that I had planned out, and I wanted to see it fade. It did flush to 284, but then it started to swipe back up. So that tells me that it's making higher lows, higher lows. And first of all, I'm trading the amateur move. I always tell the traders, you do not really have to trade the amateur move. You can wait and trade the trend move, and trend move was bullish. And so we were short, I was short, and 931, that's when I call the short starter size, not a big size. I always tell people that I will add more. And if it holds 290, I will cut. If it breaks the low of the day, I will add more puts. That was my plan. And then it still did not break that level. Remember the level we were talking, the pre-market, this 286, 287 area on FedEx right here. It was still not breaking that level. So that meant I had to cut. So that's why I said cutting. It's not giving up. Good timing on short covering, and then it's a long setup. Let's look here. If it holds, I will cut the starter and look for a long. And then once we stop out, you take a loss, take a $2 to $3 loss, and on the starter size, and then you get long here. So you see higher lows over the cloud. And what was the plan? The plan was long if that area holds. And if you did not trade amateur move, you did not have to lose that, but then I can go my regular size and cover my short loser and long it. And I think I gave the 295 target on the long side, and it did hit 295 by end of the day. But the important point to learn is that when it's time to cut, you cut. So I cut it. You see where I cut it here, right? This was not giving up. It was coming down, it was bouncing, and I cut it right here. You see that, right, with the timings. And right here we cut it. And after that, since we cut it, it pushed over 290, went on to push $6-7. So that's how you manage the trades. In the morning, I think FedEx is still very bullish. This is a big gap up. So tomorrow it will be high watch long on the day 2 setup, because this is a big, very bullish gap. And the chart is looking bullish. The weekly chart is really, really nice setup here. So so keep eyes on it tomorrow. It will be on our day 2 list. So that was FedEx. All right, guys, the next one we're going to look at is Tesla. So let's look at Tesla. So what was the plan on Tesla? Tesla, let's go back. Let's look at, before I do that, let me show you something. So last week, last couple of weeks, I was talking about this area, right? This area we were breaking down, and then it reclaimed and it made a hammer. So I said if 180 area holds, we might see a reversal in coming days. Remember, this is a weekly chart, and today Tesla started to break out. And of course, it held the 280 level and nicely pushed over. And then you can see it breaking the downtrend line, and then it's pushing higher. So, I'll talk about what happens next later, but just wanted to show you guys what was the daily chart saying. And let's go to intraday and let's see what was our setup. Tesla had a upgrade, and Tesla had upgrade or whatever the news was, but we had our levels on Tesla right here. 188, 189. So those were two resistance pivots that I gave the community, and they were pretty clear and clean levels. Those levels were super clean, no, not like, not hard to identify. You see rejection, and then breakout. So as soon as I saw the strength, I told everybody bullish, watch the pullbacks to long. And of course I was on voice and I was talking about you can long it, and then it just kept pushing. It just didn't even look back. And then we then came our 10 a.m. setup, right? So this was 10 a.m. and I called out on the voice, that's a flag breakout, then breaks out a flag, pushes again, then it makes another flag, right? Still holding the 512 EMA cloud trend, not breaking down. So I told everybody, hold a tad bit more, should give us more. When did I say that? I said that, at 11:50. And what did it do? More flow was coming on the scanners. I told everybody more flow is coming on scanners. And then 198 was my target that I gave everybody. And you can see all the price alerts going down here. And then we hit our 198 target as well. So you can clearly see the daily chart that I just showed you, our intraday breakout levels, and a nice all-day trend. And you can see my timestamp guidance here on Tesla. So Tesla was a beautiful trade. And now looking at next at Tesla, I'm looking for this breakout, either a pullback to today's levels, pull back to, let's see if we can see some levels here on 1 hour. So if we can pull back, if we pull back, right, this area, this 191, this area to hold. I don't really want it to break the 3450 clouds, then it's gonna push back, pull down here, and then I have to make a judgment call to let the EMS come back. But even if it holds this level tomorrow, we can still take it long for a breakout over 198 and 200, because there's a big breakout which is kind of looming, not this one, right here on 198 and 200 area. So it's a weekly 3450 clouds. So we'll see. But I told everybody that you can swing the runners, don't swing a big size, because we are right into the resistance. If we reject this resistance, then we can fade back. So do not hold a big size, just swing runners. So we are swinging some runners. Runners means if I had 20 contracts and I made money on all those 20 contracts, I'll swing 2 or 3 contracts, just the profit money. So very nice breakout today, beautiful. So hopefully you understand. Next one we're going to look at is Apple. So what was Apple doing? So let's look at the Apple. So Apple was, we have to go back. This was, I was on the pre-market. I was talking about how the other charts are curling up, and Apple might be the one which can join the curl today. And that was my pre-market planning. And you can see this daily rectangular breakout level here. And not to also this 1 hour, you see this 1 hour turned bullish. So that's why Apple was on my watch in the pre-market as well. And these were my levels, 21164 to 1270. So I already gave those two breakout levels, and you can see that Apple is breaking out of those levels. And then it was running all day. A lot of traders in the community were on top of Apple as well. Clean levels on Apple. Stefan was on it since morning. Tony was on it. And you see that, right? How everybody traded Apple. Everybody was on Apple. So that was a beautiful move. And then Apple broke 512. That was a nice short as well on the end of the day fade on this 512 breaks. That was like a short scalp repeatable setup that I teach in the webinars. All right, let's go to the big one for today. That was Amazon. I actually didn't trade it at open, but I did trade the breakout that came later. So let's see what it was. And again, I'll refer to my chart that I gave everyone. I did give Amazon chart in the morning in the community as well. you can see this, right? This was the setup, the breakout, and but it was today, but I also posted something on Amazon a few days back. So I posted I did when does it post that? Yeah. So I posted about on this on on 24th that we rejected this once, twice, thrice, 4, 5, 6. So we're rejecting so many times. So I'm only interested when we break out, right? This resistance zone, you see that 189, 191, and then today we start to break out, and that's when I tweeted another try on the breakout. And rest is, you know, that how it went. You know, we'll talk about it now in detail. But so definitely Amazon was on our watch. We had our levels on Amazon right here, 187, 188, the breakout levels, and Amazon started to go right away. And there are a few reasons Amazon was going. There's some news out of China, and then also RIVN had good news, and Amazon owns a bunch of RIVN, so Amazon has that RIVN effect as well. And then on top of it, we had that weekly, monthly breakout that I just talked about. So everything was pointing out for Amazon for big win, and I told everyone just trade along the breakout. You can see my whole day commentary. I was on voice, and there were also the traders like Prakash was on it, and since morning, Tanya, all these traders in the community was on top of it, right? Amazon. It was, our community was just all Amazon today. I joined later. I joined this breakout from 190, and then this flag breakout right here, and I continued to post about it, right? So I told everybody holding the breakout, no need to cut. Breakout, powerful move. Hold as long as 512 holds. Gave the 195 target. Roll with the profits. Hold it. Only noobs and amateur short. We stay long. I did get out when it broke this 512 EMAs. I was expecting a little more fade, but it held on and kind of bounced there. But that was the I was happy. I mean, it was good trade for me. The calls went 60 to 70% for me, and if you were in lotos, they went 100%. So again, with the system, I showed you news factor, the breakout, and detailed analysis to make everything comes together to give us high conviction setups that you can size good and make a good trade. Everything has a reasoning, and if you don't have to chase, just take 1/3, 1/4 size. Take 190 calls, 192 calls. Even if you took shares, it was a winner all day. Even if most of people were long in the morning, but then it provided another nice breakout later in the day as well. We've been talking about it. I was talking about it 190. My interest was this area, this 190, right? This area was my interest, and that paid well. So you were never too late. But anybody who was trying to short Amazon, he or she learned his lesson. All right, let's look at some of our game plan news plays that kind of worked out. I didn't play this, but it was a nice one. I said neutral to bullish, resistance is 96, support is 95. Few traders played as soon as resistance breaks out, it was a good long. I did mention it in the morning that it's a long from the game plan. You can see 934. I didn't mention it, and then it pushed all day, pulled back. You have to watch this support here. Don't just cut because EMA is breaking. You have to give support resistance some credit, and then went all day, 100 psychological target. So that was a nice trade. I know a few traders did really good on ALB here in the community. Victor was there, newbie was there. Newbie did good. Jones did good. It's all about executing, right? The another play from our game plan was Whirlpool, which was B minus short. B minus short is the one which is still over 34.50 but is under 512. So here was Whirlpool. So plan on Whirlpool was B minus short from 512 break, neutral bias, support 102, 196, and resistance 105.27. And as soon as I saw that breaking on Whirlpool, and I was like B minus short right away. I told everybody B minus short, and you see I already gave the plan, right? So most of traders, if you focus on Whirlpool at open, you trade Whirlpool, right? I was focused on something else. I was trading something else, but Whirlpool was a short right here in the pre-market, and I told everybody at the open that it's a B minus short under 512s, and then 3450 is always our first target. It was still heavy, and it did fade right into the 50 EMA cloud on into 96 area. So Whirlpool was, I did tell everybody, make sure you cover 34 because it's that's our system. You short 512s, you cover 3450, you cover some here, still bear flagging, then you finally cover everything here, and you see these 4 candles trying to bounce, and then you could play this this call setup for long. You call from 3450. Even if you risk this area, you could have made another $3-4 on that Whirlpool long as well. So that was a nice trade today, short and long. So there was a loser today on SMCI. Frankly, I knew semiconductors are weak, but when it was pushing over 512s, that's when I told everyone that we can long it. But as soon as it pulled back, we were out. Just lose $4 or $5, that's fine. And because semiconductors were weak, and you could shorts SMCI as well. And let's see here on the levels. So levels on SMCI 838, 817. There was 2 support levels, and as soon as that 838 could not hold, then we see the breakdown, and then you see the another breakdown here on yesterday lows, and then another breakdown here from yesterday's pre-market lows. So you could see that the fade on SMCI, and it was with the semis. I think the first thing I told everybody in the community was semis has no strength, and I should have stayed away from SMCI. I don't know, got a faked out, even though I knew that SEMI has no strength. NVIDIA is bearish, no longs. SMCI long was a loser because the SEMIs kept selling. You see SEMIs just sold. All SEMIs are bearish. Maybe ARM was long, but I told everybody that just avoid it. Just avoid the longs all day. I told even at when I told even at 11 a.m. So there was no use. I wish I shorted SMCI. That would have been a nice trade, but that's fine. We just need to know the setups. Yeah, let's look at another one from our game plan. That was PAYX. So PAYX was bearish to neutral trade versus the cloud. That's what I told everybody. 125 was support, 123 was another support. And as per our cloud rules, trade the open once those two supports were gone. So PAYX was just a short, right? That was, it should have been the number one play. Actually, I should have focused more on this one rather than FedEx, because you can clearly see that all our levels worked much better than the FedEx job. And the bias was correct, bearish to neutral, trade versus the cloud, PAVX, but did pay a lot of traders really well. A lot of traders did really do good on PAVX, and I did update traders about the game plan. You can see here, right? Short from our game plan, PAVX. I did tell everybody in the 950s, update the community, and then even then after that it kept fading all day. So that was PAVX. All right, let's look at another setup for from ACN. Accenture was gapping down, but it was at 300 psychological level, and the plan was trade versus 300. That's simple, trade versus 300. And what did Accenture do? Bounce from 300, call, you risk 300, you trade that scalp into 304s. Even if you're not trading later in the day, but just want to show you how the plan and what it kind of worked out, right? Let's look at another one that was ALNY. So ALNY has been winner since yesterday. It's on every day. It's on our day 2, day 3 setups. That's why day 2, day 3 setups are so important, guys. Look at that. That's why this is the earning play as well. This is also not earning play. This is the swing setup as well. Which you trade, and this today it was the breakout out of the all-time highs, so it just kept pushing here. So let me show you where it was. That's the reason I have them on day 2, day 3, right? 237, 240 resistance pivot, and you can see that yesterday cloud held, today cloud held, and it's a long. So ALNY was a beautiful trade. Yeah, Katakuri was on top of it on the community, so great, definitely great trade. I was not in yesterday, but the traders traded the yesterday's day 2, day 3 setup as well. So anyways, guys, that's it was all for today. As I said, I was off and I'm now back. Hopefully next few days are better. See you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.